watching News 3 Now, live at 4, moving forward.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Live at 4. I am still not sick of this weather out there.
No, it's nice. A little cooler today,
Yeah.
But still not bad.
Not too bad at all. We'll take it.
Yes.
All right, let's get a look at our first warn forecast. Jacob Montesano is out on the patio. What are you watching, Jacob?
Well, we're seeing very nice weather again today, although not quite as nice as it was yesterday. I think that's more indicative of how nice it was yesterday rather than today, because today is still above normal. We're having temperatures in the upper 40s and lower 50s right now. These are pretty much the high temperatures of the day so far. And as we take a look at the temperature change from 24 hours ago, we are still about 20 degrees colder. Again, that's saying more about how warm it was yesterday. In fact, we actually had a record high yesterday of 67 degrees. Previous record was 66. So that just goes to show you how nice it was. Now, yesterday looks like it won't even be the warmest day this week, though. We're going to see very mild temperatures later in the week. I'll talk about that later. But first, here's a look at the current radar. Very dry, and that's going to be the case for the next couple of days as well. Throughout the evening, very nice forecast. Temperatures will drop into the 30s around 8 to 8:30, and then we're going to see low temperatures kind of around 30 by the time we get to the morning. We're going to continue to see partly cloudy to mostly clear skies as well, and tomorrow is going to be clear as well. So once again, we're going to continue to see very nice weather until Friday evening. That's when we have an alert day in the forecast for likely our first chance of severe weather. I'll talk more in detail about that coming up a little bit later.
Thank you, Jacob. A 20-year-old man is in jail for a deadly crash last week. The Dane County District Attorney charged Ryan Bertrand with 3 felony and 2 misdemeanor charges, including first-degree reckless homicide and homicide by intoxicated use of a vehicle. A criminal complaint alleges that last Thursday, Bertrand was speeding down Raymond Road just after 4 when he T-boned a Lexus at the Gammon Road intersection. The Lexus driver, a 67-year-old woman, died at the scene. Police found 2 kids in the Lexus. They went to the hospital and they're expected to recover from their injuries. Police say when they talked to him, Bertrand allegedly admitted to drinking a bottle or 2 of vodka and several beers, and that he should not have gotten behind the wheel. Bertrand will be in court for a preliminary hearing on March 18th.
A now former correctional officer at the Walworth County Sheriff's Office is charged with alleged child sex abuse. Samuel Piper was charged last Friday with 2 counts of sexual exploitation of a child and 2 counts of trafficking a child. The Sheriff's Office says officers received tips from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children that Piper had been paying minors for videos and images in the summer of last year. On Thursday, officers searched his home, arrested him, and he resigned the same day.
Sheriff Dave Gerber released a statement on the charges saying his office is disgusted with this type of behavior and doesn't tolerate it. Right now, there aren't any known local victims, but if you or anyone you know has information to help the investigation, you can call the task force at 608-266-1671.
The state assembly is considering a bill that would bar transgender athletes from playing college sports. The GOP-backed Assembly Bill 102 would designate UW and technical college sports teams based on the sex of participants and establish sex as what a physician designated when students were born. It also requires universities to ban students assigned male at birth from using women's locker rooms. The bill received a hearing at the Capitol today.
What needs to matter, what needs to be prioritized are the feelings of biological females, and we need to take into account their opportunities.
It's about bullying an extremely small portion of our young people to conform to societal norms. It's not about protecting girls.
If the bill were to make it past the Assembly and the Senate, the governor could veto it. Last year, a similar bill, one seeking to ban trans high schoolers from playing on teams aligning with their identities, made its way to the governor's desk, and Evers vetoed it, saying the law would harm LGBTQ plus Wisconsinites and kids' mental health.
Rebecca Cook will try to oust Republican U.S. Representative Derek Van Orden again. The Democrat announced that she was running again earlier today. The Eau Claire native ran against Van Orden in 2024 and lost by about 11,000 votes. Cook's the first Democrat to announce plans to run for Wisconsin's 3rd district. And taking a live look at the Capitol here, where the House is expected to vote shortly on a funding bill to avoid a partial government shutdown. Republican leadership unveiled the legislation on Saturday. It would increase spending on defense, veterans health care, ICE, and decrease non-defense spending below 2024 levels. Congress has until Friday to fund the government. House Republicans have a razor-thin majority, but Speaker Mike Johnson believes he can get all GOP members of his chamber to vote in favor of the bill and then send it to the Senate.
A federal judge in New York has temporarily blocked the Trump administration from deporting a Palestinian activist at Columbia University. Mahmoud Khalil is a green card holder, but the Trump administration says the arrest stems from his involvement in the pro-Palestinian protests at the school last year. Khalil's attorney calls it an attack on free speech, but the Trump administration says the arrest is the first of many to come.
Mr. Khalil was never accused of a crime. What we have is a case where the government is punishing someone for saying stuff that the government doesn't like.
We've been using intelligence to identify individuals on our nation's colleges and universities, on our college campuses, who have engaged in such behavior and activity, and especially illegal activity. And so I don't have a readout on how many arrests will come, but I do know that DHS is actively working on it.
The 30-year-old Khalil was sent to a detention center in Louisiana and will not attend tomorrow's court hearing in New York.
And we'll be right back. The U.S. is providing aid and sharing intelligence with Ukraine again.
It comes in exchange for Ukraine agreeing to a proposal for an immediate interim 30-day ceasefire. Today, representatives from both countries met to discuss ceasefire efforts in Saudi Arabia. U.S.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio and President Donald Trump's national security advisor said it's now up to Russia to take steps to end the war.
Let's get a look at the forecast now. Yesterday, I couldn't decide whether I needed to take a jacket. Today, I brought the jacket, but the sunshine still feels good, Jacob.
Yeah, and we're going to continue to see sunny skies for the next couple of days. Taking a look at the three things you need to know, tomorrow, Thursday, and most of Friday going to remain very nice as the temperatures continue to climb up from here. Now, by the time we get to Friday evening, we do have a better chance of some storms, and we have an alert day in the forecast due to the possibility of some severe weather. Now, as we take a look at the forecast for tonight, a pretty quiet one. Lows will be around 30. We're going to continue to see partly cloudy to mostly clear skies. And then for tomorrow, plenty of sunshine. Highs will be a little bit warmer compared to today. We're going to be in the middle to upper 50s, and it's just going to continue to get warmer from there for Thursday and Friday. Friday actually could hit 70. But also, as we get to Friday, like I mentioned, we have that alert day in the forecast for the possibility of some isolated severe storms. Now, the severe storms really only look to impact our area later Friday evening and Friday night, but we're going to also be windy throughout the weekend, and we could see alert day level winds for Friday and Saturday. But again, the only chance of severe weather does look to be Friday night. So let's take a look at that forecast. This is Friday at 3. We're still going to be dry through this point, but later in the evening, probably the earliest it will happen will be around 9 p.m. You can see off to the south and west the storms start to move in, and the peak time of these storms, depending on your location, anytime between 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. Looks like for Madison it'll occur around midnight to 1 a.m. and northern counties a little bit after that. Now, the good news is that this system does look to clear out before sunrise, but we could be seeing very strong winds, some minor hail, and even a few isolated tornadoes with this line of storms, especially in southwestern Wisconsin. Now, like I mentioned, that will clear out before sunrise, but we could still see some light showers throughout the day on Saturday. But once we get to the daytime hours on Saturday, there pretty much is no severe weather risk, despite the fact that we're still going to see some rain, and that may continue for a good portion of the day. So here's a look at the severe weather impacts that were expected. The biggest risk does look to be the wind, where it does look fairly likely that that line of storms will produce some strong winds. Some minor flooding, as we are going to see heavy rain for a brief period of time. Again, minor hail, some isolated tornadoes are possible as well. Now, on top of the severe weather, even when the storms aren't moving through, we're going to be seeing some strong sustained winds. So as we get into Friday afternoon, we're going to see strong southerly winds gusting up to around 35 miles per hour. This will really help bring those temperatures up Friday. But as we get into overnight, when that storm moves through, we're going to briefly see strong winds with a little bit of a calming in the winds for Saturday, at point Saturday night, but then the winds are going to pick back up as we head into the morning and afternoon Saturday. They're still going to be out of the south Saturday morning, but by Saturday evening and night, they're going to be out of the west and northwest, and that will be the transition where temperatures will start to fall, and those northwesterly winds will continue for much of the day on Sunday. So as we look at the 7 to 10 day forecast, there's going to be a big drop in temperatures over the weekend due to that shift in the winds. Now, they do look to rebound a little bit for the middle of next week, but we're not going to see temperatures quite as mild as we will see Thursday or Friday. So pretty quiet through the day on Friday. Again, those storms likely not until after sunset, and it's going to be a very nice, although very windy Friday with highs in the lower 70s. And then the storms move through, cooling things down for Saturday, and then the shift in the winds will cool things down even further for Sunday with highs possibly in the 30s. Can't even rule out some light snow on Sunday. I know talking about 70s and snow just a few days apart, that's very Wisconsin weather, but that is in the forecast, if you can believe it. And again, warmer temperatures after that with some rain for the middle of next week.
That's March in Madison. Yeah, up and down.
Spring.
Yeah. All right, Jacob, thank you.
Well, even with a calm forecast, stress seems to be reaching epidemic proportions in our lives these days.
Boy, it really does, doesn't it? An ancient practice called mindfulness meditation has proven benefits. And it's been trending these days with some high-profile people, athletes, rock stars, and CEOs. UW Health distinguished psychologist Shyla Murgain is here to tell us more about it and to show us how to do it. Hi, Shyla. Good to see you.
So great to see you.
So when I think about mindfulness, to me, it's just trying to be present. Is that, what is the official definition of mindfulness?
I think you hit the nail on the head.
Is that what
it's
it is?
Really being here now. We often describe mindfulness as being present, so in the present moment, on purpose, non-judgmentally. I've heard people say as if your life depends on it, because I think it does. Over and over, I'm hearing how overwhelmed people are feeling. And some recent research shows even a little bit of mindfulness can help lower stress, improve mood, and just overall physical and emotional well-being.
Yeah, so, and when you have the benefits like that, that can really change your day, change how you interact with people, your appreciation level. So those are some big things.
Absolutely. It improves relationships, improves how you parent, and I think it just improves how you show up for your day.
So how do you do it? How do you quiet your mind and reap those benefits?
Well, first is to schedule a time to practice. You think about your typical day and all that comes at you. You're on autopilot, reacting, responding, and you lose your center. So think about picking a time. Maybe it's when you sit down for a meal, or when you first wake up, when you're going for a walk, or maybe when you see the smile of your child. And just take a moment to be in the present moment, noticing all that exists in this moment. And they say mindfulness allows more of you to show up and more of life to appear around you.
So pick the same moment each day?
Yeah, I think that could be great, and schedule it. And then use an anchor. So the breath is a wonderful anchor because it's always with us and it's kind of boring. And just notice your breath as you breathe in, notice you're breathing in, or as you breathe out, notice you're breathing out. So you could use the breath, you could use movement as you're walking, you could use smell, aromatherapy, or something visual, like I know somebody who practiced while watching sunsets.
Oh, so you don't have to be sitting, or you can do it however it works for you,
Absolutely.
right?
Some of the same benefits happen when you're actually active. So you could do it while you're washing the dishes, you're tucking your child into bed, or maybe when you're tying your shoes in the morning. Anything can be an anchor. It's just the mindset of really being present with all your sensations.
Do you have any advice? Because here's what I find is troubling. I'm centered, I'm being mindful. I have to do the dishes. Okay, I'm back to being centered, mindful. I have to get that errand done. How do you keep your mind from wandering?
Yeah, and I think you're really describing one of the challenges and why people stop. It's a monkey mind going from tree to tree.
Right, that's a good description.
Right, and I've sometimes heard mindfulness is really bringing your mind back, noticing your mind wanders, because that's what minds do, and then just bringing it back over and over. And it's kind of like bicep curls for the brain, and you can get curious about what kind of thoughts you're thinking, those habits of mind, and then you have choice of not getting so hooked by it. You can let that thought go like a cloud going along the sky.
And then one of your other tips is to just have compassion with whatever arises.
Yeah.
And explain more about what you mean by that.
Just being kind to yourself. If you have that kind of thought that's negative, notice it with kindness and bring it back. You could even do a kind gesture, like your hand on your heart, feeling the warmth there, and that can be an anchor. And just offering yourself some grace for maybe some challenging emotions. You can just be with yourself with some kind words, kind gesture, kind intention, and I think that really creates resilience in this complex time we're living in.
When you do it, how long do you do it?
Anyway, from just even a simple breath when I'm eating to a longer 20-minute practice, or
Really?
sometimes I'll even do a longer 40-minute body scan before I go to bed.
Interesting.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, when all of you are doing your dishes, you can practice mindfulness.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It'll help you get through it.
Thank you
Shyla,
very
great
much.
advice.
Oh,
Good to
thanks for
see
having
you.
me.
Yeah. And we'll be right back.
Well, it has been 5 years since the world was forever changed by the COVID pandemic, most notably our higher usage of technology.
In this week's Time for Kids report, Jalen Banks sits down with an expert on kids' screen time over the past 5 years.
Since the days of the COVID-19 pandemic, we've seen an increase in technology use and screen time, especially in places like classrooms for kids.
Over the past 5 years, kids have seen an increase in screen time and technology use due to the pandemic. And speaking to one expert, they say certain areas of development have changed or lacked for the generation of kids in school during the pandemic.
This potentially impedes on social development, especially for young kids.
We know from data points that face-to-face interactions have decreased by 2 hours amongst teenagers and younger kids based on the access of screens, as well as, again, COVID-19. You can't talk anything without talking about the pandemic, because that became an accelerant for screen time use.
Tonight at 5, I'll have more from Dr. Sood on technology use for kids. For now, reporting in studio, Jalen Banks, News 3 Now.
Thank you, Jalen. In the 608, we have made it our mission to highlight local veterans for their spirit of service.
Josh Strider has a follow-up with one of our finalists from last year and how he's giving back to both kids and veterans now.
Well, I have two folks joining us in the 608 today. I've got Daniel Kane, Jeff Summers, and a lot of folks might remember Dano. He was one of our finalists for Spirit of Service. It's good to see you again.
Thank you. Thanks for having us
Yes,
back.
yeah, appreciate it. And you guys have a really unique event coming up this weekend in supporting local veterans. What's it all about?
Jeff and I are both custom rod builders. We build these rods from scratch, and we got together one night with another friend of ours, Jordan Duran, and we decided we wanted to start doing classes. And our goal was to get veterans into building their own rod. So we started up a joint venture, and our first class will be coming up this week.
You know, talk about that partnership, Jeff, because this is kind of an exciting thing that you guys are doing and giving back.
Absolutely. It's been a lot of fun. One of the things when I retired is I started this whole thing out trying to build 2 rods after I retired. Now I could do it with my son. So we're trying to make it easier for people to build rods as well as get into the hobby of doing these rods. So it's been a lot of fun along the way. We actually formed a business with some of the jigs, and we donate half of our sales back to Josie's Gift and other charities as well, and it's a lot of fun.
So kind of walk us through the process, because this isn't simple, right? This takes a little time.
It does. It takes about 8 hours to sit down and build your first rod. Glue the butt grip, the rear grip, and then we have the reel seat. The reel seat comes and it's really loose on there. As we take down, we use masking tape and we build up arbors so that fits on there snug and it centers everything. From there, we go into adding a guide on. There's no tying when we do the guide wraps and everything. The one part about rod building is there's no right way or no wrong way.
It's whatever works for you.
Yep. Putting the thread on there, wrapped it around a couple times, and then you cross that thread over.
So once you get it started, then you get rid of the tag end, pushing the threads together to make sure they're nice and tight. So it's a nice consistent color, and then it's just a matter of building it up.
It's done me a lot of good because I was a point in my life I was stuck on things, and it's relaxing. And that's kind of our point, is to giving back to the vets, to let them take their mind away from everything they're dealing with on a daily basis and get into something like this.
Yeah, and although this class is full this weekend, I mean, you were kind of surprised just how much interest there was in it.
I was. We started out where our goal was to have 12 to 15 participants, and within a week and a half, roughly, we had over 50 people involved that wanted to get involved and do the class with us. We wanted to make it free for the veterans, but we just can't do that with the cost of everything. So we charged the veterans a fee for it. I think we figured out it's going to be about $50 a vet per rod. And then we reach out to people in the community and whatnot looking for donations so we can bring that cost down.
Thank you guys so much for what you're doing and, you know, lifting up those in the community that deserve it.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you very
it.
much.
In Madison, I'm Josh Breiter, News 3 Now.
That's cool to see.
Thank you guys, very cool.
Yeah.
You can learn a lot more about it on channel3000.com.
And a reminder, we'll start meeting this year's finalists for the Spirit of Service next week on News 3 Now.
Coming up on Live at 4, a veterinarian who works at a beagle breeder, Ridgeland Farms, defends his work.
Whether he's keeping his license when we're back.
You're watching News 3 Now, live at 4.
Oh, isn't that a nice shot?
It's a bald eagle flying over Lake Monona this afternoon. Just riding the currents.
Very majestic.
It is.
Out there. And our weather words, warm weather returns soon. Jacob, what's that all about?
Well, we're going to see temperatures possibly even warmer than they were yesterday a little bit later in the week. And even with that, I mean, temperatures today have been very nice. Looking at the highs across the area, upper 40s, lower 50s. Out here definitely feels very pleasant. Barely any clouds in the sky either. And we're going to continue to see a lot of sunshine. Now, even with that, yesterday was even warmer as we are seeing a temperature change of up near 20 degrees colder. Again, that's much more indicative of how warm it is yesterday rather than it being on the cooler side today. And as we look at tomorrow's highs, it's going to continue to get warmer from here. We'll see highs in the middle to upper 50s, plenty of sunshine. But look at the highs for the rest of the week. We're going to have highs in the middle 60s Thursday, then lower 70s on Friday. But then there's going to be a big temperature swing over the weekend. I'll talk about why that will be the case coming up a bit later. But the good news is that, as you can see from the normal line, we're still not going to be too far below average, and then we'll be back above it. However, I'll talk about just why those temperatures will be so wild over the weekend coming up in just a little bit.
All right, Jacob, thank you. The staff veterinarian and facility manager of Ridgeland Farms will keep his veterinary license following a vote today by a state regulatory body.
Our Kyle Pozorski continues to follow the developments related to the Blue Mountains facility and has an update. Kyle?
Yeah, Richard Van Domelen has worked at Ridgeland Farms since 2006, and today we heard directly from him as he defended his 25-year veterinary career. You might recall Ridgeland has faced accusations of animal cruelty for many years, with the farm always denying these claims. This afternoon, in front of a meeting by the state's veterinary examining board, Van Domelen asked the members to closely consider the decision on the future of his license.
I find it extremely troubling that I'm given only 5 minutes to defend my 25 years as a licensed veterinarian to this body. I'll try to do my best to do so. I have chosen this career because of my love for animals and my desire to contribute to the greater good. I am proud of the work I do and proud to go to Ridgeland Farms each day.
Van Domelen further went on to defend the farm's practices, and while he will keep his license, the board did move to adopt a stipulated agreement put forth by his attorney. And News 3 Now has not been able to confirm what those stipulations are.
And Kyle, why do you think the vet decided to speak at this meeting?
I think he was kind of, at this point, realizing the stakes of what this decision could have been today. It could have been that his license could have been revoked or suspended. But obviously that was not what happened, but I think he really saw that the stakes were this high, and that's why he wanted to speak out.
And where is the case now? Where do things stand today?
Well, there is this separate case that's kind of going through the Wisconsin legal system. There's the district attorney that was appointed up in La Crosse. He's been appointed as a special prosecutor for this case. At this point, it's still kind of pending his investigation, and then things will go from there if he decides to bring charges against Ridgeland Farms.
So it's status quo for now.
At this point,
the dogs are still at the farm.
They
Very
are.
interesting. You've been following this now. How long?
Since October. There was a hearing back then and kind of got me interested in this. Been following it ever since.
Well, thanks for the update. Kyle, thank you very much.
Well, we have some developing news. The Education Department is set to start sweeping layoffs today, seeking to cut about 50% of its workforce. This as the Agriculture Department is slashing $1 billion in programming that provides funding for schools and food banks. The first program gave about $660 million to school to buy from local farmers. The rest of the money was earmarked for incentivizing food banks to buy from local farmers. The Evers administration says it received a letter from the Trump administration on plans to terminate the funding, despite Congress having approved the funding years ago. Governor Evers has released a statement on the matter. It reads in part, "Here in America's Dairyland, we stand up for our farmers, farm families, and producers, and we're going to fight to make damn sure our farmers have the resources and support Wisconsin was promised."
Those cuts come amid other uncertainty about the administration's policy. Earlier today, the president threatened a 50% tariff on the country's aluminum and steel. Following the threat, Canada agreed to suspend its electricity surcharge on 3 U.S. states. Despite avoiding a dramatic escalation, the White House still says 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum are on track to go into effect at midnight. And that had an effect on Wall Street today, which saw another head-spinning day, finishing the day 10% below its record. The Dow lost 478 points, the Nasdaq lost 32, and the S&P 500 was down 42.
Wisconsin's GOAT committee that mirrors the work of Elon Musk's Doge in Washington met today for the first time in the state capitol.
Political reporter Will Keneally is there with more.
The Government Operations Accountability and Transparency Committee is meeting here behind me on roughly the 5-year anniversary of when we started to see COVID-19 impact us here in Wisconsin. The Efficiency Committee tackled today the issue of remote work and whether Wisconsin should require state workers to return to the office or allow them to continue working remotely.
And we're here to talk to the agencies today and find out between last year and this year what improvements have been made in terms of accountability measures and tracking and understanding productivity and output.
Earlier this year, Republicans floated the idea of requiring state workers to come back into the office, an idea Democratic Governor Tony Evers said he would not sign on to if that legislation came to him. Also a focus of this committee, DEI. Now last month, this GOAT committee sent letters to the 50 largest cities in Wisconsin asking them how they spent money on DEI efforts. Now this comes at the same time Republicans in the state capitol here are asking for a statewide audit of DEI programs. We should expect that audit to come out very soon here. Reporting from the state capitol, Will Keneally, News 3 Now.
Thank you, Will. Tomorrow night, Wisconsin Supreme Court candidates will go head-to-head in a debate ahead of the April 1st election. Liberal-backed Judge Susan Crawford and conservative-backed Judge Brad Schimmel and former AG Brad Schimmel will be at Marquette Law School for the debate, which airs on WKOW at 7 o'clock. This race is expected to be the most expensive state Supreme Court election on record, with both parties bringing in millions of dollars from billionaire donors.
A bobcat is making headlines after the Fitchburg Police Department responded to the sick animal that was sitting in the middle of the road last weekend.
Experts from the Dane County Humane Society's Wildlife Center say they originally thought the bobcat was suffering from bird flu. Meryl Hubbard digs deeper into this disease.
Around this area near Cottonwood and Commerce Park Drives is where Fitchburg police responded to a docile bobcat that ended up stirring up some fears online. Wildlife experts who were taking care of the kitty say that its symptoms signaled bird flu.
It should be hissing at me, it should be trying to claw at me, but it was just sitting patiently.
Jackie Sandberg is the Wildlife Program Manager for Dane County Humane Society's Wildlife Center. They specialize in caring for animals like bobcats and say that this one's unusual calmness was a red flag for avian flu. 2 days after the cat arrived at the center, it started to have seizures. And after a rapid decline in its health, veterinarians at the center made the decision to put down the bobcat. To determine what caused its illness,
the USDA APHIS did come out to test and swab the bobcat. to see if it was initially positive for avian flu. That result actually surprisingly came back negative. We were honestly very surprised as a staff team and vet team about that.
Since interviewing Sandberg, the DNR told me that they are planning to retest the bobcat before confirming the results. Reporting in Fitchburg, Meryl Hubbard, News 3 Now.
Meryl, thank you, and we will keep you updated on the Bobcats' final test results from the DNR.
Well, here's good news, baseball fans. We'll be airing Milwaukee Brewers games right here on News 3 Now.
Woo. In addition to 10 regular season games, we'll also be showing 3 spring training games. Coverage will include pre- and post-game shows from the Brewers broadcast team. You can watch for free on either WISC or Television Wisconsin. The first spring training game is on March 15th, and that is this Saturday.
Feels good just to think about baseball,
yes.
doesn't it?
Spring thoughts.
Yes. Coming up on Live at 4, speaking of, Jacob looks ahead to a potential storm this weekend.
And Dr. Jeff Potthoff stops by to talk about how common the virus is that killed Gene Hackman's wife. Well, another beautiful day out there, but we have some different kind of weather coming. Here's meteorologist Jacob Montesano. Jacob?
Yeah, an alert day is in the forecast for the possibility of our first severe weather of the year. However, until then, it is going to be very nice. We're going to see temperatures continuing to warm up, and we'll see plenty of sunshine for tomorrow, Thursday, and most of Friday as well. But Friday evening into Friday night, that'll be the chance of those thunderstorms. And the alert day is in the forecast due to the possibility some of those storms could be severe, especially for southwestern Wisconsin, although all of the area could definitely see severe weather. Southwestern Wisconsin has the best chance to see that severe weather, and this is mostly going to occur after sunset Friday and into the overnight hours, and possibly very early Saturday morning, likely going to clear out before sunrise. So here's a look at that forecast. By Friday afternoon, we are still dry. Winds will be strong Friday, but that will bring the temperatures up. As we get closer to around 9, that's when the rain may begin to move into southwestern Wisconsin, and over the next couple of hours after that, it will continue to spread out across the rest of southern Wisconsin. And the peak time for this to impact our area will be around 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. For Dane County, it'll be around midnight to 1 a.m. And for northern counties, it will be closer to that 2 to 3 a.m. time range. Now, the good news is that this will clear out before sunrise Saturday, and this will really be the only chance of severe weather. However, this line of storms could absolutely bring some strong winds, maybe even an isolated tornado. So definitely tune in to the News 3 Now weather app and the News 3 Now in general for updated details on this system. Could even see some minor flooding and minor hail as well. Now, as we take a look at the wind gusts during all of this, it is going to be pretty breezy, especially once we get to Friday. Good news is that the winds will be out of the south, so it will help bring in that warm air. But once that system moves through, we're going to see very strong winds, possibly seeing gusts up to 50 miles per hour. And even into Saturday morning after the severe weather clears, it's still going to be very strong, up around 45 to 50 miles per hour, again, especially for southeastern Wisconsin during this time frame. But still, we're going to see those winds out of the south to start Saturday. But here's later in the day, towards the evening, the winds will be more out of the west-northwest, and that's going to continue for Sunday. That's going to be the big reason why those temperatures cool down, as the breezy conditions will continue throughout the weekend. And for late Saturday into Sunday, they're going to be out of the northwest, which will really bring in that cold air. Now, the temperatures are looking to rebound for the beginning of next work week, but we're still not talking about temperatures quite as warm as what we'll see Thursday or Friday. However, they'll still be above normal for this time of the year.
Investigators have determined Gene Hackman's wife, Betsy, died of hantavirus.
It's a disease spread by rodents that attacks the lungs.
And also, 2 new reports show by 2050, more than half of adults and a third of children will be obese. We have a lot to talk about today. UW Health Dr. Jeff Potthoff is here with us.
Hi, Dr. Potthoff.
Hi,
guys. How are you?
Good. So let's talk first about this hantavirus.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to know the answer of what happened to Betsy Arakawa, but it's not something we hear about very much here in the Midwest.
No, it's actually fairly rare across the United States, particularly in Wisconsin. No one needs to worry about picking up hantavirus. We've had 5 cases since 1993. The last one was in 2017. But down in the Four Corners region, so New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, this is a thing. It's a virus. It's carried by rodents, particularly the deer mouse, the white-footed mouse. And you need to come in contact with either the mouse's secretions, maybe their feces, breathe that in. And the tricky thing about hantavirus is it'll start presenting like almost any other illness like flu. You got a fever, you don't feel well, nausea, vomiting, maybe some belly pain. But specifically to hantavirus, it starts making the very small blood vessels in your lungs leaky, and it starts to fill your lungs up with fluid, which then often requires either support from a ventilator or
The world's largest sports and humanitarian event is underway in Turin, Italy.
The Winter Special Olympics is in its 4th day, and more than 1,500 athletes from 100 delegations will compete across 8 sports. The games end on the 15th with a closing ceremony, and you can watch the games on ESPN+, ESPN3, and Disney+.
Good luck.
Yeah.
I love the Special Olympics.
It's so great.
It's so inspiring. We'll be right back. Tomorrow on Live at 4, we preview the biggest issues dominating the state Supreme Court race ahead of tomorrow night's debate. And later tonight on News 3 Now at 6, hear an animal rights activist's response after a Ridgeland Farms veterinarian defended his line of work. That's coming up tonight at 6. Thanks for watching Live at 4 today, everybody. We hope to see you right back here tomorrow. News 3 Now at 5 starts right after this.